When was the last time you found yourself in a film noir medieval thriller racing across the streets of Los Angeles in an Uber driven by a hunchback who used to be a professor at Notre Dame, searching for the killer who is called the showrunner and is killing all the beautiful women and dumping them in dumpsters? Well, you can't remember? Good thing you're here on the Mosaic Ark. Welcome to the Mosaic. I'm not going to stop. No, this is like too good. This is too good. Oh, no, no, no. Oh my gosh, you're here. Okay. Welcome to the Mosaic Ark. We are so excited to have David Angsten on as our guest tonight. I know talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to keep reading.
Yeah, she's not kidding.
She's not. I'm
it's
not kidding. I'm not kidding.
it's a
This
page
is
turner.
no. Well, so we only invite into the Mosaic Ark, into this exclusive cruise, those whom we are convinced can help us with our storytelling. And David, you found me many years ago on Facebook, I think, even before I was doing live streams, and but after I was making mischief, because otherwise you wouldn't have found me.
Yeah,
And I
probably
think
true.
I sort of was looking back at our Facebook messaging and saying something, you wanted a medievalist. What was that? or you were hoping, do you remember how you found me? Because I am curious.
I don't remember. I mean, it's been like, it was way back. Um, but you're right. Probably your shenanigans with Milo, maybe.
He's in
Uh,
LA now. Have you seen him? Sometimes
mm,
he's out looking for his cat.
oh,
Oh, poor
where
cat.
where does where does he live in LA? Is it in West Hollywood?
It's in Silver Lake.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I, I'm in I'm in West Hollywood.
he's been covered by the local news about living up on that hill in that mansion, right?
Yeah.
He had to stop being incognito secret where he was living because they put it on the news. Anyway, it was sometime around the Milo days, and
Yeah.
you've been working on this book for a while, right? Because I think when you got in touch with me, you said you were starting the thriller,
Oh,
maybe.
no, it's been, yeah. Well, I've
Okay.
been working on it for years. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
it's perfectly crafted. We can tell.
Hmm.
yeah.
this
Oh,
is
it
Oh,
really
this is
is.
yes.
not a book. This is not a book that was dashed off in a November Nimo or something, right? Right.
I know.
This
I
is
Nobody.
I I envy those guys. There's several friends on Facebook who are authors, and they can turn out a book every 12 months, 18 months, and you really have to do that to make a living at it. I don't have to
mm.
make a living at it, but so I'm allowed more time. Um, but yeah, it's been. I don't even want to tell you how many years
Don't
it's been.
don't you don't have to confess. We academics, are embarrassingly slow, right? But the thing is, I'd say we are going to torment you by reading wonderful passages out of your book tonight, and you
That
all
would be a
will
torment.
you all it will be horrible torment because you'll be rewriting it. I can feel it.
No, don't. It's
No,
perfect.
don't. Well, it is perfect, but he's since we booked him on this, he's rewritten a few things because he
Yes.
started recrafting and rethinking. So you guys, we are in the presence of someone who takes our craft very, very seriously, which is
Yeah, I was,
the
I just read
words.
I just read a quote from Borges the other day, where he said they used to write novels in Buenos Aires, his friends and he, they just did their writing for themselves, basically. They never thought of, uh, you know, making money at it or whatever. I mean, obviously he became famous and he did make money at it, but um, yeah, it, I forgot what the rest of my thought was. It
I've
was,
embarrassed you too much. I'll tone it
no,
down a little bit.
no, listen, thank you guys for having me on. I do appreciate, even though I complain about it, because I'm not big on, as I've said, not big on talking about myself, but you know,
Uh,
I've written this book and it's the only way to promote it, so I'll do it.
Oh, good. Okay. See, we've got a reluctant advertiser. This is great. This and the thing is, no, we actually we started Mosaic Ark allegedly for a variety of reasons, right? One, because I just love talking. No, the, you get me in front of a class and I'm off. Because we're working on our own medieval fantasy thriller poem, and
Oh, good.
we realized we needed to like help people get up to speed. So we didn't have anybody to read because
Mm.
Yeah.
there's a sort of background layer of knowledge that I think I certainly see you tapping into because this is basically
Yeah,
Dante.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Dan Brown, move over, who is
yeah,
mentioned occasionally in the book, right? It's like, yes, Dan Brown, move over. This is much better written than Dan Brown's thrillers.
yeah,
But that, I think I tribute to you or sense, we need great stories. We need, sort of stories that reference and tap into our literary heritage. But nobody's going to understand them or get them or appreciate them if we don't have some general like background knowledge to start with. And with Mosaic Ark, we started realizing that what we were trying to do in our story was just it was not going to have anybody's attention if we didn't talk about it a bit. So we're here tonight to help you talk about your book.
yeah.
The thing is, I think it truly it's a real page turner. I David sent me the pre-copy. I've got the not for resale copy. See the I've got
Yes. I would. Yeah.
the old ending. This is the collector's item now.
Yeah.
You got to realize
This is a collector's
this
item,
is
and I.
we both got our collector's items here. Um, I forgot where I was going. Right?
Yeah.
What was I saying?
You're talking about the Mosaic Ark and how you're giving people the background of there's just so much that goes into our poem, and you can tell there's so much that went into your novel. There's
Right.
just little Easter eggs everywhere, and I've read it, and I've just reread a few passages today, and I'm still finding ones that I went, oh, clever. I don't want to give any spoilers to anybody, but I'll just say that the names that you give the characters and the places are really meaningful, and they're fun to discover, and they're very appropriately named. They're fun to discover them as you're reading them.
Well, we're going to have to
And even
spoil
after.
some things so they'll want to buy the book. So I remembered what I was going to say, that I read the book when David sent it to me in April, and I said, we must have you on. And he said, okay, the book came out yesterday. So you all can now, after we finish talking about it, go buy it. But I started rereading it today, and I got a third of the way through just this afternoon. It's a page turner.
It is
Guys,
so
we promise you,
fun.
it's an absolute page turner. But on the other hand, it also has these layers that you now have your most geeky audience to celebrate this with.
Yeah. No, I know you'll appreciate a lot of things that other people won't.
Well, we're here to help. We're here to
Yeah.
help. Anyway, and now I had another thought in there about what we were doing and how we. Oh yes, that in trying to promote our book also, and I think this is I definitely appreciate this. We are in a world which your characters are actually trying to deal with, which is the because you live in Hollywood, right? or you live in LA, the Hollywood adjacent, right? Wherever you are
Yes.
in that
I'm I'm
world.
in I'm in West Hollywood, which is just west of Hollywood.
So how do
It's
you not go
between
nuts, right?
it's
Because
between yeah, it's
you're
between Hollywood and Beverly Hills.
oh, that's very
West
pretty.
West Hollywood.
You have
Have you been to Los Angeles? You've been here. Oh, you
many
were just here for the Getty
many
many times.
times. Yes, many times.
Yes, yes.
I was most recently there for a fencing tournament.
Uh,
And
oh yeah.
we stayed at the Biltmore, so I have I got the photo with the angel wings and everything because
Oh yeah,
they
that's right.
that's in
That's a
their
beautiful
hallway,
photo.
so that they let you
Yeah.
play it being in the city of angels.
That is
Yes,
a fantastic photo.
it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
My friend fellow fencer took it. But no, so I've been out to the Getty, right? So we're gonna have to talk about the Getty because it figures in your story. Um, I so I've been out to LA quite a few times in the last year and a half or so. I'm going to show up on your
Uh,
doorstep eventually and say, "Hi, we're going
sure, I
out."
hope so. Yeah.
But that you live in the midst, and I take it we're going to force you to talk about yourself just a little bit. You live in the midst of this screenwriting world that you put your characters into, I gather.
Yes.
Yes.
I started I'm from Chicago originally, but and I came out here like 30 years ago, my wife and I did. And in Chicago, I was working in film, and this before video, before video was even happening. We were actually making a lot of corporate films and medical films and animations, and I made a short story film. Uh, and anyway, then we moved out here, and so I had I didn't start out writing novels. I started out writing screenplays, and I wrote screenplays out here for 10 years, and uh, finally got so frustrated with it that I started writing. Actually, my manager suggested I start write a novel. So he had he had a script that was a kind of a slasher movie script, and he wanted me to turn it into a book. And so I did that, and it's under the name Michael Abaddon, and it's called Snowblind.
Hmm.
And I swear to God, that novel has more 5 stars than anything I've written, and it's a slasher movie that takes place in Alaska. But
Huh.
anyway, it was fun to write, and apparently people who like scary, really scary books appreciate it. You'll see if you read the comments. So then uh, I started writing this series. It's called the Night Sea trilogy, and the idea is based on Jung's. I talk about the Nakia, which is the uh, every night the sun goes behind the earth, and it's like the hero's journey into darkness, and then he comes out the other side and presumably brings something to the world. And so I follow through these 3 books the 2 brothers, focusing mainly on the one brother, Jack, and it's sort of a what do they call it in what's the German word for the coming of age book?
Rom uh
Yeah, Roman,
Bildungsroman. There you go.
Bildungsroman. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. So it's kind of that. He becomes a man in the course of the of the trilogy, and each one. It's okay if I ramble on like this.
Go ahead. Now
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll just settle in to hear your stories. I
yeah,
am okay. You guys have to notice he's talking like the Michael Abaddon. Seriously, Abaddon?
yeah,
Are you
yeah.
kidding me? He just drops it in there like it's nothing.
Yeah, Michael Abaddon.
It's a
So
slasher story, so I'm gonna give the archangel against the devil as my name.
it's
Oh,
the deepest pit of hell is Abaddon.
See, we say we're gonna show them that there's an Ahriman manor in this one, right?
right.
Yeah, these are the kinds of Easter eggs you're in for.
Yes. That's so
That
fun.
they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
The
In
trilogy, uh, it it each book gets into a different. I sort of have to go back further than that. Um, I'm interested in consciousness and how our belief systems shape our consciousness. Um, I don't know if you guys were around in the 1960s. I was a, a, a young kid, preteen, say, and
I'm
I
60.
remember.
I'm 60 now.
I was born in
Okay,
1967, so I don't
okay,
remember much
You
of
were
it.
the older kid. You were the older
yeah,
kid.
I'm the older kid. Okay, so anyway, um, I did drugs in high school, and it just sort of blew me away. I mean, it just took me to a completely different place, which happened to a lot of people in the
Mhm.
1960s. And so for about a 6 month period, maybe a year period, I was experimenting with different drugs and, read Aldous Huxley and, uh, Doors of Perception. I don't know if you've ever read it or not, but his idea was that he took mescaline and he wrote that book.
Mhm.
And it's about, he thinks that consciousness was uh, our brains kind of like a filter that condense all this information coming at us into patterns that we can understand, and so they turns sort of the chaos of the world into patterns that we can work with.
Hmm.
So uh,
That's very interesting. What does that make it does it mean that the patterns aren't there or that we're perceiving them?
Or that your brain has a brain,
Well,
right?
I like that sort of sense of it being a filter that enables you to perceive like your eyes. I mean, it's like there's light out there, but it's only light because your eye is sensitive to translating the
yes,
electromagnetic waves into meaning.
yes, yeah,
Is that right?
yeah,
But that so
I
that our brains are I mean they're perceptual and they're translating the whole. This is a very Mosaic Ark concept. We like this a lot.
Yeah, it is.
well, I think they don't really know what consciousness is, although a lot of people claim to. Nobody really understands it, I don't think. And I'm not a drug advocate, by the way, because I mean, I thought it was interesting that it kind of opened me up to these to consciousness, to the even idea of consciousness. Otherwise, I was just reacting to, and the way most people just react when
Mm.
as they grow up. Um, but I've always been interested since then um, in so many thoughts come to me. One thing is that uh, you need if you take a drug, it'll give you an insight in when you sort of you'll sort of get sense this transcendence for a while, but it's only temporary, and then you come back down, and then you have to keep doing it over and over, and it becomes it doesn't work, basically. So to my mind, this is sort of the basis of. I got into meditation
Mhm.
after that, into Eastern religions, like a lot of people did, and it's funny because I've come back to Christianity as I've gotten older.
Good.
But uh, I've been meditating. Yeah,
We approve.
I have been I've been meditating for 40 plus years, 45 years, and twice a day. Um, and to me, it gives me that taste of transcendence twice a day. And I would like to talk to you guys because I don't know if you do you pray the rosary
I
Hmm.
pray the hours, the matins and laudits in
hours.
the morning. Yeah.
I wonder this about because my mother, who's passed away, but she she's when she come and visit me in L.A., she'd be sitting in a chair doing the rosary, and she'd just be spaced out. And I thought, I told her, in fact, I said, "You're doing what I'm doing when I meditate, because it's basically meditation is most forms of meditation are coming back. You bring the brain back. It's either a mantra or you're looking at a candle flame or whatever you do, and you keep coming back to the same thing. You bring your brain back, and it gets in this cycle, which kind of uh, shuts down your thoughts eventually. You're able to just experience a sort of a pure conscious state,
Is this like
um,
transcendental meditation?
which is yeah, that's what I
Okay.
do. Yeah, and I learned the cities later on, and still do those. Um, but anyway, so that's a long preamble, but I've always been interested since then about systems that contain consciousness or that channel consciousness, we could say. And so, my first book is about sort of plays with Mesoamerican mythology and the Aztecs and so on, and a lot of Catholicism in that book. The second book, Night of the Furies, was explored Greek mythology and the uh, some of the religious practices of the Greeks. Um, and then the third book, The Assassin Lotus, was kind of an adventure that travels the Silk Road and got into Hinduism and Buddhism and Islam, and explores those. The Silk Road, I'm sure you know, was like such a confluence of all those religions, and they all travel that road. And
Hmm.
um, I'm interested in the connection between East and West too, in that regard, from India and Greece. I'm curious about that. What went on between them back in the antiquity. But anyway, so that's what I focused on, and this book is really about Catholicism for me, and I wanted to explore that, and um, so that's what I'm doing with this book. That's in my
You
mind,
you
anyway.
you
Mhm.
definitely are. We can verify.
Yes.
But the
Yeah,
thing is, what's wonderful is, and guys, so one of our audience, BA Boston, says she's picked up a copy, so you'll have more readers soon, giving you reviews
good.
and things like that. Um, that it really is a page turner. You guys,
Yeah,
that
It really
if
is.
David is sitting here saying, so it's a meditation, it's a this and that. It's like no, it's like and
No,
and
no,
and
no. I'll tell you what it is. It's a thriller. It's like watching a really really good action flick with really good mystery in it. I'm not a bit surprised you're a screenwriter because it reads like you're watching a movie. It's that fast, and you don't want to put it down. And it's like every single page, there's some kind of action on it, even if it's just mental. It's incredibly engaging.
oh,
It's
that's
just
great. That's great to hear. I'm really glad you felt that way.
we're gonna
Because
prove it
that's what I'm
too.
trying.
But that
Yeah.
to say can so that this makes sense of your journey, the sort of mystical level of because
Hmm.
it's definitely I mean it's there from the very first paragraph in the
Hmm.
medievalist, but you've what I love about the way you've written the story, and I've just ordered your first one in the first trilogy, with the going to Mexico. I'm I'm even more curious now, that these deep themes run like these undercurrents through everything, and I in the medievalists they definitely drive the action, but it's like you in certain ways if I would go professorial on you. You've read this very engaging Dantean mode where it works on multiple levels, right? And you've got definitely the just the literal level of the murder mystery that's going on with
Hmm.
these characters, and then
Hmm.
the layer of all of these symbolism of the names that we've started hinting at. There's all sorts of wonderful. What I love in the medievalist right now is there's so much color imagery that you're playing
Hmm.
off of, so you
Hmm.
can see that, and incredibly physical
Hmm.
descriptions as well. And then
mhm.
with what you're describing right now, everything grounded, but very gently. So that you'll know it's there, but it's light. It's born lightly, which I'd say is evidence of how hard you've worked writing it, because you have no clue that you've worked so hard writing it. It's right. It's no,
Yeah.
it's the funny thing about, like, okay, we're going to compare you to Dan Brown because everybody will appreciate that. When Dan Brown writes, I don't know whether he writes terrifically fast or not, but he writes in a way that you feel like it's just dashed off with all the symbolism in it, and you want to turn the page in it and such. But it doesn't reread well, right? Yours are going to reread well always, because there's always another layer that you can get into with the revelation that you're trying to
But even
affect.
that itself, even the layering is itself a revelation too. It's like there's layers you
Yes,
just don't know about.
right. And then, I
And
mean,
yeah,
okay, so I will confess that you named one of your characters Billy Bragg. That that's one of my husband's favorite, singers. So there's sometimes they're just plain old Easter eggs in here. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that's funny.
I was naming him after a cameraman I used in Texas.
Oh,
oh yeah,
so I got that wrong. To me, I thought it was the Billy Bragg, the British singer. So maybe it's like,
huh.
so, but for me, this is, Dante does this with his own characters, right? That you have both the mythological layer and the historical layer and the personal. That's delightful to hear. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'd like to hear a bit more, because one of the, in the Medievalist, your main character, Roland, is also trying to get a screenplay produced. And there's certainly things in his adventures that make it clear that you know what this is like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or
Yeah. I've been on
how
both. I've
hard
been on
it is
both
to
sides of that.
pitch, and also, I mean,
Oh, the way people act.
the way people
Oh,
act, yes, and but simply, I mean, the how do you go between this, meditating daily and in this spiritual journey and in this mythological journey, to having to write stories that, like, clip along and really get people to I mean, we would love to know how to do that.
yeah.
How do you think about the crafting of the screenwriting level of the story, as opposed to we're good at mythology. We can,
Yeah.
go on about that, you know, for years, but the craft of actually keeping the story active, we were very impressed.
Well,
Not taking it for granted at all is what I'm
yeah.
saying.
No. Screenwriting is all structure.
Yeah.
So I learned that before I learned anything. In fact, it's so structured that when I moved to novels, it was like a freeing thing, because you could go in people's heads. You could, describe anything. You're much more fluid and available to everything. Um, but screenplays teach you structure, the 3-act structure and setup and payoffs and all that stuff. I mean, I did that for so long that it's just like second nature to me to do it. And you want to end each chapter on a something a hook that gets you wanting to read the next chapter.
Right.
I mean, talk about Dan Brown. He was so shameless with that. He'd lay out these
I love Dan
riddles.
Brown for his complete shamelessness.
Yeah, no, I loved it too. I mean, that book pulled you through it. I
Oh
can see
yeah.
why it was a bestseller. But yeah, he was very good at hooking you and gosh, I remember chapters in that. What was the one with the French woman who? Oh my God, I can't. It was a long time ago I
Well,
read it, but
unfortunately, with
it goes
his,
on.
you read them so fast you don't remember them, because
Yeah, yeah,
you're sort of racing through and
right.
yours is a page turner, but it doesn't have quite that frenzy.
But I don't know. As long as we're on Dan Brown,
Yeah.
that scene, I just remembered what it is. It's that woman, and she's with these men, and and she's in the house, and she takes the men down into this chamber, and they, and then the men are around her, and then she, does this or that, and then he stops it without giving you the end of what happens in that room. That's how the chapter ends, and you don't pick it up in the next chapter. you don't pick it up. I don't know if you pick it up for the rest of the novel. It maybe comes in later, but that was like, this guy is utterly shameless. I thought, yeah. But at least you're not bored reading it. That's always top on my mind. I don't want people to be bored. It's a commitment to read a book. It's not like watching a 2-hour movie.
Right.
You're gonna spend 6, 8 hours, maybe 10 hours with a book, and I want it to be full and dense, uh, and you talk about reading it again. Nabokov, I'm a big fan of, and since I was a teenager, but um, he said that. Oh, now I forgot what I was going to say. Uh,
Nabokov.
yeah, gosh darn it. Um, I lost it.
Well,
Lost my
I
thought.
remember when you were talking about Borges at the beginning, and I think that we've somehow, I mean, he was prophetic in things like the Book of Sand. Do you remember that one? The book that you could never read twice because it was just that's one of his stories, right? The
Oh
Sand,
yeah,
like
yeah,
where it
yeah.
goes, and of course the
Yeah,
library labyrinth. Um,
yeah. He's
of
very much playing with consciousness
always,
in
yeah,
a way that Nabokov is too. I think he's similar. He's very stylized. He's a stylist basically.
right.
Brilliant. Um,
But with this in the screenwriting, we read the book that everybody knows, and we've read about the cat, Save the Cat, right?
oh yeah,
Snyder's, is it Snyder's?
yeah.
Because we were, I mean, in writing our poem, we're writing in 5 acts, not 3, because we were doing a Shakespearean kind of thing.
Yes.
But sort of in helping ourselves pay attention to, you need something to happen now because that's sort of where you are in the structure of
Hmm.
things, and that people have a, it's like I know, like you say, you can write a screenplay, I can write 5 paragraph essays, or
Hmm.
an academic article, but there are ways in
Yes.
which both a screenplay and even a 5 paragraph essay, or a an academic article, have a similar kind of structure, because you need to have this the create the scene, create the problem, and then solve it in certain ways. There's sort of there
Hmm.
craft of rhetoric, there are arguments, and
Hmm.
I think it's we're enjoying about reading your book is we can feel the structure. It's there for a reason. I mean, you have the 3 acts because you say, Roland talks about how it's Dantean, right? The sin, the
Hmm.
penance, and repentance. Sin, repentance, and
Hmm.
redemption. So it
Hmm.
has to be there. But I mean, talking about our brains filtering the chaos of the world, having a structure and a story is a good thing. and
Yeah.
and a
Yes.
delight to be able to do it, lightly, but with like a great musical composition, right? That it goes at certain places in the music and then resolves. I
Hmm.
this is something we're very much enjoying with our poetry writing, that we're trying to recover people's sense of that being, things being well crafted. So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think if you've imbibed the structure and the craft, and it's just the way things come out now, that's great, right? But
Yeah.
the sort of how do we think about, like, ending things with the right kind of puzzle so that people keep going when you're getting their
Yeah.
attention.
Uh,
Yeah.
the television was this way when I think there were one, two, were there five or four acts in television? I think
Mm,
there's five maybe, where each before each commercial break
Yeah, for 15
you want to
minutes.
end on a hook, or something that gets you to want stay through the commercial.
right.
Um, but uh, you were just talking about it reminded me of just the other night I saw uh, last night, in fact, Michael Walsh, the historian. Um, we saw him at with Karen Sigmund's group over in uh, the west side of LA. And he was talking about uh, Napoleon. He has a book out about battles, famous battles.
Mm,
And he was talking about Napoleon. and he was also talking about Goethe's Faust, and he said that Napoleon invited Goethe, because Napoleon, I didn't know this, but he had been a novelist. He wanted to be a novelist when he was younger,
Oh my
and he
gosh.
was and he was quite astute or, quite educated in the structure of stories and so on. And he invited Goethe to talk to him because Goethe at the time was, the most famous writer, certainly in Germany, but probably in Europe. And he invited him uh, to his palace in Paris, whatever. And Goethe came and he Napoleon asked him about, you know, why did you do this in the second act? Why did you do, blah, 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 and had this long discussion with him about it. And Goethe had to explain that it was, he was taking artistic freedoms to do what he needed to do to break the structure that would normally be there. So that's interesting. It's a, it's something that's been around for a long time, structure all the way back to Aristotle.
Well, this this
Interesting.
I, this makes me wonder. It's like, so Napoleon or Trump, right?
Yeah,
How much are these sort of, great leaders? In fact, it's like, okay, that's not the story. It's not done yet.
yeah,
Like that we have our Star Wars trilogy of presidential terms between
Oh, right.
the New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and the Return of the
yeah,
Yes.
Jedi.
yeah,
And this makes an interesting sort of problem, because we're saying how much is a story a fiction, this sense of it, we craft it, and we're our brains are imposing order on reality, and how much, which is in a Christian sense, we are in fact living in the story, and it's
hmm
more, being attentive to the real structure that's there. We're participating in, the great story, the great fairy story. If you're writing the medievalist is writing in this Christian fashion, it's got to have the story arc that you gave it. It's got to have his sinfulness and his recognition of his sin, and
yeah,
his repentance and his redemption, because that is, I mean, that's the Tolkien's great insight about,
right.
the gospel is the fairy story that we're constantly living and finding real. So that, well, I love that, therefore Napoleon, it's a better, is a better screenwriter than Goethe.
Yeah,
He get
He's
that's
directing them.
he's a
That's a funny
direct.
story.
I Okay. At this point, I need to crown myself emperor. That's the right move.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's I think it's interesting about you're talking about the reality of the story. What you find, what I find anyway, and I'm sure other people do, I'm sure I've heard them talk about it, but uh, you find if you're doing this every day and you're immersed in the story, I don't really outline. I sort of it just comes to me as I go,
Mhm.
and uh, it becomes in a way more real than your real life. You know, when you're so focused on this world and these characters and you're so in their heads, and then you come out and you go make a sandwich and talk to your wife and so on. And it's like that's like that's like the dream, and the
Uh-huh.
reality is there. And I often think that um, you know there's this idea through the whole book about the kind of merging of faith and imagination,
Mhm.
and
Mm.
uh, I, there's the idea that the apostles at the ascension of Christ. Um, it's such a fantastic idea that he resurrected from the grave and they
Mhm.
watched him ascend into heaven.
Hmm.
It's a great imaginative leap, um, but you wonder if it wasn't to them almost more real than their actual lives in a way, rather
It
than
had to
being
be.
something that's unreal. It's hyper real.
It had to be.
Um,
That's why another angel came and told them, "Get moving. Why are you still standing here staring at the sky?
Stunned, huh?
Get a move on."
Yeah, yeah,
But to your point, right? They're like, no, no, no. None of this matters here. I'm just going to keep looking up. And
yes,
they had to be shooken back into reality. And and told, no, you have a job to do, go do it.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, it was more real, and they had to be reminded that it's not the only real
Right.
thing.
Right. Yeah, and I wonder, the whole notion of, I'm sure you guys talk about it all the time, of bringing the kind of trying to bring the spiritual nature of the Middle Ages. How do we infuse that into the present, that spiritual imagination?
Well, that's
And
yes,
yeah,
and that's it. That's what, and I'm going to read some now because you've done it.
yeah, okay.
And the thing is, we do talk about it all the time because people are often despairing now
Hmm.
when they
Hmm.
say, oh, well, you can't go back to the Middle Ages. It's like, well, that's true. You can't because time doesn't work
Yes.
that way. But also that there's this cultural despair right now about whether or not we can recover beauty, whether we
Mm-hmm.
can live in a world that has meaning,
Mm-hmm.
whether we can have the kind of relationships with other human beings that we're meant to have, and everybody it's I think the horror and despair right now that everybody's worrying about the robots, right, the degree to which we'll be taken over by the machines, um that we in the Mosaic Ark and in our our practice are very much of a mind is like, yes, you can recover it because it's a training of training of the attention to beauty and praise, and
Mm-hmm.
in our practice it's the poetry, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think in your practice it very much feels like this, structuring the characters into the the story arc that they are
Mm-hmm.
learning themselves from.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm going to prove this by reading a little bit.
Okay.
Everybody listen, settle down. This is simply the first chapter, which is called Red. I won't read the whole thing, but I think I want to read into it just a little bit and make some comment because I think it's
Sounds good.
so
Sounds good.
beautiful. Red. In the seventh circle of hell, a river of blood and fire boils the embodied souls of murderers. The killers number in the millions, a grim harvest amassed from the long history of evil. Thousands of armed centaurs, half human, half horse, patrol the flaming shoreline, shooting arrows at frantic sinners struggling to escape the infernal stream. The worst of the slaughterers, Pyrrhus of Epirus, Attila the Hun, Alexander the Great, are kept in the boil to their brows, while lesser offenders are allowed to emerge to the height of their neck or chest. Their wailing permeates the gloom. Air fogged with the stench of burning flesh glows red above the incandescent water. Red, the color of fire, the blood. Red, the pigment of the devil. The scene is impossible to depict in one panel. The medievalist is attempting it in four. Hunched over the wooden lectern, peering from his hood, he scrutinizes the pastel stick of crimson he's been using. Even in the blaze of candlelight, the color looks too dull. He selects a stub that's softer, its hue more intense. Smudging it with his fingers, he blends it into the flames. Unsatisfied, he works it thickly up into an impasto. But still the fire looks dead, the bubbling blood inert. The stream must be more vibrant, the flames more alive. How else to lure the viewer, draw him into the scene? It needs to fascinate him. He has to be seduced. Gazing into the candle's glare, the friar recalls a haunting red his mind's eye can't forget. He indulges it in the memory just long enough to tempt him. Taking up a candle, he slides bulkily off his perch and shuffles to his desk. The massive oak antique is strewn with sheets from a Latin manuscript. He pushes them aside to expose the leather blotter, beneath which lies a large envelope fastened with a metal clasp. The medievalist pries up the wings of the clasp, opens the flap, and slides out the drawing. A slender-necked beauty, naked as Eve, stands partly hidden behind a black-barked tree. Midnight-haired, lily-skinned, dark eyes peering out at us. The only color in the charcoal sketch is the rich blood red of her lips. The friar extends his index finger and gently touches her mouth. Unlike the powdery charcoal, the red is slightly sticky. The substance clings to his fingertip. He rubs it against his thumb. The monk's gaze shifts to the pendulum clock, 1:42 a.m. At this late hour, he'll surely go unnoticed. The hallway will be empty, the tenants fast asleep. He pulls open the top desk drawer and plucks out the black cat keychain. Crossing back to the lectern, he lifts a bronze snuffer and extinguishes the candles, releasing globs of smoke. At the door, he drops his hood to listen. The muffled clank of the radiator is the only sound to be heard. He unlocks the bolt and steps warily into the hall. The odor of boiled cabbage still lingers in the air. The floorboards under the carpet creak. Down the bending corridor, he comes to number 6. He listens for a moment, taps lightly on the door. Behind it, a cat cries. He inserts the key.
Chilling.
That is,
There's so
those
much
are,
in there.
yeah, there's so much in there. Those images are so rich. You're seeing these images of hell, and you're seeing the images of this dark little apartment, and then you're seeing an image of a hallway. It's like, how many different dimensions are we in here?
I only read
And then
2
after-
pages.
I know the whole book is like that. Seriously, it's wonderful. It's just wonderful. It pulls you in, and then it pulls you in this direction and that direction. But they're all these really deep, meaningful images.
Well, we'll
that
start
you're
with the color
describing.
red, which we've been obsessing on.
We have lately. That's
yes,
odd.
yes. No, so this is it's in our story we're in Act 4, and one of the themes is the trading of the East India Company. You said you thought about the Silk Road and you've
Yes.
done sea ships and stuff. Well, we've done pirates, and
Yes, we
we were
follow
thinking
that.
about the dye, which maybe comes up in your first book. I wonder, cochineal, that comes from Mexico, which was the of the silver and gold that the English pirates were stealing from the Spanish. The red dye was part of the treasure that they were capturing in the 16th 17th century. So this turned into this whole meditation on how do you make red, what kind of dye is it, where is it, and then to have to open this scene and have
Yeah.
it's all about
Yeah.
it's just the color. And of course, since one of the things your character is this hunchback medievalist monk is interested in is the manuscript coloring, the manuscripts that you can see at the Getty, and the red that the painters are using. It's like everything happens in this first paragraph that you suddenly know you're in this world of color and pain
Oh, yeah.
and blood
Yeah.
and story. And David, you've done it beautifully. It's captured all
Really.
literally in that first. Guys, you got to read the first paragraph over and over and over because it's like the entire story is right there.
I mean, you can see the smudges of the chalk and the bronze candle, this globs of black smoke, right? The sticky red. It's those kind of wonderful descriptors. That's really what
Yeah. I
makes
wanted
you
to
leave your
set it
room
so
you're in and go in there.
I wanted it to, you start out and he could be a medieval monk, in
Yes.
1350 or something. And then you gradually, you realize he's, living in a city and et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
But it starts out with the idea that, he's in his head, he is there. He is there.
Yes.
He's back there.
Right. And so is the
Um,
reader. That's
and
what really
he's
adds
an
up.
art historian of the Middle Ages, so he's very aware of color and its uses and history of painting and so on.
And how
So
hard
yeah,
it is,
I'm glad you love it.
to get the right color. I mean, that he's
Yeah,
so in this scene he wants that red, and that truly, guys, if you know how clever, how well crafted this is, the entire story is like spoiler alerted in this opening. but he's interested in the color, and he touches it to his lips, and he touches the color in the charcoal, and he touches it to the woman in the picture. So this is a fall, right? We've got we're in hell, and the fall is in here because of this drawing that
Yes.
he has with the naked girl, right?
hmm
With the tree, right? There's
hmm
even a tree. I think it's
yeah,
all there.
Yeah, you're right. You have to read this. You have to read this multiple. You read first. You just breeze through it as fast as possible because it was so much fun. But then you hear what Rachel just said, and you went, you know what? I need to read this 2 or 3 more times because there's so much in there. It's awesome.
Apples are red, violets are blue.
Gee, I wonder what this story's about, right?
Yeah.
And that yes, and I like indeed when I started reading it. I mean, I think I knew you told me that it was a thriller and it's set in Hollywood because you know that from the back cover, right? It's set in Hollywood, and you're like, okay, but this feels like it's in back in time. And then that he you learn that he doesn't use the electric light, so he works by candlelight, so that everything's happening in this um uh well, chiaroscuro world, right? That it's all
Mm,
dark around him, and there's these flashes of
mm,
color that are
mm,
in his painting. Um, but then that we've got the pendulum clock and the keychain, and I mean, I love all of the very. I said that the writing is very physical, which we're going to get to too. There's some things about his character that are just beautifully done. But you get the material. You're very attentive to the materials of things. The bronze snuffer, the
mm.
Yes.
clank of the radiator. It's all. I mean, Dante got this too, right? That you have to have all your senses engaged in order
Yes.
for the scene to come to life for you.
Look when you go to church. Look at
Mm-hmm.
the smoke of the incense, the visual, stunning visuals.
Yeah.
Every sense is aroused. I mean, in the Middle Ages, wasn't it like it must have been like the coolest thing that people did was go to the cathedral and see
Candles.
the guys with the vestments and the cardinals and the bishops and the procession and the candles and everything. I mean, it must have been like just a that would be like us going to Tom Cruise's new movie, or something.
Oh.
That much excitement, I mean, that much stimulation.
Well, we did
Um,
so in our if you go back and if you go back and watch this video, just see how it was in our opening credits. The altarpiece that we have is at St. John Cantius here in Chicago. Did you have
mm.
you grew up here? Did you go to Cantius ever
I just went there with my grandson. We went to a Latin Mass there,
recently?
like about 6 months, no, about 6 months, or I think
Okay.
it was ago. But
That's what we've been
uh,
crossing paths in. I'm going to LA, you're
yeah,
coming here.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you've been to Cantius recently. Good. And you've been
I love that church. It's fantastic. What a great place.
the
So beautiful.
that we did our I've been telling the canons this it's like they said you should write to the people who do the video. Um they do the live stream of their masses, and they started the live stream during the COVID lockdown, right? So you couldn't go to they were in community so they could keep doing the masses, but for a time they didn't have anybody in the church and they were just doing them themselves, and so they started doing these daily live streams, and that's basically how I started going, as it were. I was watching through
Oh,
the video,
yeah.
which they've continued to do, and they're getting, I'm sure you'd appreciate this, that they've gotten better with their camera work and their cuts and their angles, and they'll like when people are receiving communion, they'll have different pictures and stuff showing, because they're not showing all the people necessarily at the altar, but
Mhm.
um, they I was watching for the Easter for Holy Week, watching Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I couldn't go downtown, so I watched on the stream, and it was like distant, right? It's like it's there, but it's distant. It's close, but I have all this beautiful camera work. And I was sad because I usually make it to the Easter Vigil in person, but I
Mm,
couldn't go this year,
mm.
and I was very, very sad. And then I got to Sunday, and there was this. It's hard to, it's like one of these you want to explain, just desperately want to explain. It's like, I was suddenly there,
Mm.
right? I've been
Yeah.
watching online and online and online for days and
Yes.
days and days. And then suddenly, and I'd say this, like you say, we see in the movies, talking about, wanting to be where we are, and we're in the story, we're in our real life, that the church is meant to be this glimpse in that same register of what it's like in heaven. Right? It's like we're
Yes.
supposed to be there. We want to belong. The Mass is simply a
Yes.
simulacrum of what we will be when it is actually heaven. And I was trying to explain to the canons, like, no, no, you've got to get it. It's like, I got it. Through art, we are glimpsing the you know, like with Roland doing his paintings, right? You want to be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It reminds me what you're saying with Pope Francis and Pope Leo now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they talk about I think Francis there's a discussion about spectacle and spectacle in the mass and it all depends though on what your definition of that spectacle is or what your outlook on that spectacle is. I mean, is the spectacle, does it help bring you into the mystery, uh, or
Yeah.
does it, is it just, a spectacle could also be, playing acoustic guitars and pop songs and whatever, anyway, I think it's a question now. It seems to be. I've seen some discussions of it online and so on.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Yeah. The spectacle has to be oriented towards God and not towards man. But that was the point of
Yes,
the mass
yes,
and the giant cathedrals that were so huge that when you go straight up and you would think of heaven. That was the idea.
yes, yes. Yeah.
But I
I
think
mean,
it's even more than, it's not just a cognitive thinking. It's not just intellectual. It's the intellect and affect, intellectus and affectus of the medieval contemplation. But David, what you were just saying is like they're worried about the diabolical spectacle, right? The one and your opening paragraph is of hell, of the
mhm,
the
Yeah.
the red, color of fire and blood and red. I mean, red is also the color of our redemption, since that's the red of the crucifixion. But the this is one of the things we've been worried about with our Drake Alchemicus story. It's like it's modeled on rock concerts, which are definitely diabolical, right? If you're thinking
mhm,
about the way in
mhm,
which you're absorbed into this, like um the alternate sacrifice, the temptation, which is also what's in your, how is to lure the viewer, draw him into the scene. It needs to fascinate
mhm,
him. He has to be seduced. That the
mhm,
mass is not seductive in that sense, because the mass is taking us to our glory, right? Our
mhm,
longing for heaven, as opposed to the seduction, which your characters are going to get caught up in, right? It's like, at what point are they giving into the desire to be part of that
mhm,
spectacle, which is a
mhm,
different kind.
mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I'm also thinking in that regard that as a writer of a thriller, who also has other dimensions he wants to bring into it. Um, I need to seduce the reader to a certain extent
Mm-hmm.
to pull him along. Uh, so that becomes the vehicle that moves you along, but you discover a lot of other things on the way. Um, uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Seduction and temptation are the theme running throughout all of this. Roland is such a
yeah,
fascinating character because even what Rachel just read, so they need to be seduced, they need to be tempted. It's like he has an
mm,
he has a what seems to be for a monk a very unhealthy obsession with that. So it could,
uh,
yeah, as the story goes on, you learn why he's doing it. I mean, he's writing a script.
yes,
He's writing Dante's. Uh, I guess what do you call the whole thing?
The
Yeah, it's
comedy.
Inferno. Yeah, the
the
comedy.
Divine
Thank you.
Comedy. Yeah,
Right. So he's writing his Divine Comedy script, and that's how we find out why. But at first you don't. But there's lots of moments like that throughout,
mm,
and as you pointed out earlier, so much structure, so much layering. And
mhm,
I have a quick question about that. As a
mhm,
writer, now we have the end in mind for our 5 acts that we're writing, so we know. And some writers fly by the seat of their pants and they don't know where it's going to go. Do you
mhm.
always have to know where it's going to end when you're
You
writing a
know,
story?
I've worked both ways. I've written some of these books with well, actually, I think only really one. It's good to have an idea of the ending, so you know
Mm-hmm.
where you're heading ultimately. Um, although I can't say that I had a great, I didn't have this ending in mind when I was writing it. I like to discover it as you go along. I've outlined novels before, and it's so hard to do. And I like discovering things as you go along. I mean, the lipstick, where did that come from?
That
I have
was,
no idea. It just sort of happened, and then it became the central element of the story.
yes,
And I found that if you get too caught up with where you're going, um, you're not listening to that quiet voice in your head. There's the best things come to you, and they're sort of just in the background. And your first thought is, well, that's ridiculous, or you want to just shove it aside because it's not where you're heading, where you think you're heading.
yeah,
But then you sort of play with that idea for a second. You let yourself hear it, and you know that's where the best stuff comes from.
yeah,
It'll be there'll be something in the room, some object, or that will suddenly be useful later on in the story. You discover it and you use it. I think it was Gore Vidal who said the story teaches you how to tell it. The
mm,
story teaches you how to tell it. So you have to sort of just start it somehow, and then you learn where it's going as you go. Um, Although, of course, you have an idea of where you want to go.
yeah,
But anyway,
Yeah, so I'd say, I mean, we know where we're going, but Casey, but we don't know how we're going to get there.
yeah,
Right?
and that's
It's
scary,
yeah,
and
it,
it's
yeah,
it
because we've changed directions slightly a couple of times, right?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
we have the larger claim that we want to accomplish, which is
uh,
defeat the dragon.
right,
yes, and
But in
always a
fact,
good idea.
but
yeah,
it's a modest goal, right? But that we finding out exactly what works, and that's, I mean, for our purposes, it makes a big difference because we're trying to show, as you are, in a good fashion, what sin is,
Mm,
and what its temptations are, what its shape is, how you get caught up in it, and so understanding how you, I mean, to eat, sort of magic versions of, oh yeah, snap my fingers and it's gone. That's not going to work. There
mm,
has to be a sort of, and I mean, one of the big things that we've been trying to do in Drake Alchemicus is to show why, keep the sin constantly as an actual temptation for the reader. It's like, isn't this what you want? Right?
mm,
You want
mm,
yeah,
you want this power, this
mm,
glory and technology, and it's all about the addiction, right? So when you say how to fascinate him to be seduced, that
mm,
that is it's our, I mean, there's a sort of, I guess we're talking about the mirroring here a lot. It's both um our fall, but also the thing that we ought to be seduced by, the beauty, right? By
mm,
the majesty, the longing to be with God,
mm,
which is what Dante was. That's why he wrote, not just the Inferno, but the
mm.
Purgatory and the Paradiso. That we should want to find ourselves in heaven. There's a good
Yes,
fascination. I mean,
right.
fascinate is a powerful word, because fascinating is magical, right? If
Mm,
fascinans is a being caught up in the enchantment, which is
mhm.
mm,
challenging.
mm,
Okay, to Casey,
yeah.
did you have a passage that you wanted to work through?
Oh, I do. Well, this, sorry. Oh, yeah. So
I
this
gave
was
her
the,
homework. She was supposed to pick something.
I didn't know I was, but I did anyway because
Oh,
I wanted to
good.
bring it up. Okay. So one of the things that struck me about the story as a whole is the social awkwardness. It's really palpable for the main character, but also the other characters around. It's like you like this is the scene I picked was a restaurant scene at the end when everybody thinks he's a hero.
At the
So
end. No, we
well,
can't.
it's not the very end. Sorry, no, it's that much left. So, but and he had met with this person before who kind of blew him off, but now that she thinks he's important,
Mm.
she's doing the
Oh
Hollywood
yeah,
thing. Yeah,
yes,
and
yeah. The
so
agent,
yes, it's the
or
agent.
not an agent. He's not an agent. She's just a producer's uh, assistant.
Yes,
This is Bianca.
Yes,
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 So we've had red, now we'll have white.
yeah.
yes, yes. Okay, so the Royal Road Cafe is packed inside and out with people waiting on the sidewalk for a table. But the moment Roland steps from the curb, the hostess spots him and approaches him with a smile. Very different from the first time he came to this restaurant. Right this way, Mr. Grimke. Roland assumes she must be afraid that he'll sit in the wrong chair again. There's that social awkwardness. As she leads him past the line and into the restaurant, diners take notice of him as usual. Only now, instead of grimacing, they gawk in recognition and turn to whisper excitedly to their friends. The din of conversation quickly lowers to a hush. Phones rise to record his appearance. Waiters and busboys stop and stare. A gamine in a tank top flies from her seat and clings to his arm for a selfie. She's so delighted with the photo she takes, she gives him a peck on the cheek. Roland blushes, stunned. People clap, raise their glasses, and suddenly diners are up on their feet, grinning, shouting, waving, cheering, joining in a jubilant standing ovation. Roland doesn't know how to take it. He gapes at them in confusion. But the praise and applause only grow more insistent. The crowd determined to make him understand, convince him that yes, it is him they are applauding, the monk, the freak, their cuddly Disney victim hero, the Hunchback of Hollywood. Roland smiles uncertainly, nervously nudges his glasses, then turns to retreat, following the hostess to a table near the back. In the same seat she sat in before, Bianca is waiting for him, a smile of maternal pride on her face. Congratulations, Roland, you've arrived. Without getting up, she extends, not her elbow this time, her hand. Surprised, Roland shakes it limply. Thank God the TV people aren't here. I'll fix that, she says. Have a seat. I ordered your bacon and bagel. Roland peers down the corridor behind her. Is there a back exit? Of course. Sit down. We'll plan your escape. He sits, pulls out his cell, and types a text to Jimmy. My friend is waiting in the car in case there's another ambush. I wanted to skip ahead. Oh, darn. Okay, so I'll stop there because I don't want to read too much, but at this point in this scene, you skip ahead a little bit, and the waiter brings their food, and the waiter puts down an iced tea, and he looks at him, he smiles, says, I remembered. This was a waiter who was really mean to him the first time. So everybody's
I'm
just acting
interested
so
you picked that one. I was
close.
going to pick the scene when that started all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that whole, it just smiled with maternal pride. It's like, oh, I wanted to strangle her. I just was reading this.
She is a piece of work, isn't she?
Oh, gosh almighty. No. Oh, that was that.
Yeah. I see more of that all the time. The women who have to act like men,
Mm.
and I just think it's so stupid. It's just so. I mean, I understand the pressure, but it's just a shame. It's just a shame. Um, uh, anyway, I won't rant about it.
But yeah, no, you could see that in the section Rachel said she was just going to read. Yeah, she's hyper aggressive and
Yes.
fast, and just wants to get in the restaurant and out really quick, and just is very dismissive. And that's why the contrast, whether she's smiling with maternal pride, right? Because she's actually more like the first time you saw her. She should have been more like the second time you saw her for real, but that's the phony part. The real part
Yeah.
is the hyper aggressive and angry one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm gonna do. This is where I
For
actually
contrast.
we should have planned this ahead a little bit more.
Yeah, sorry.
The meat, right? So you just you
Yeah.
had what Casey just read is the indeed when Bianca is like happy to see him, but this is there's so much excellent in here, but we'll just start here. You have to you have to recognize the picture on the cover. I mean, it's an interesting choice for that's from the Last Judgment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's the sinner being dragged down to hell.
Right. But it also, to me, with it on the cover, it looks like Roland to me now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
right, because it's a bit
he's
of a grotesque.
he's
Yeah.
grotesque and blobby, and I guess he does. I mean, if you think of the sort of cartoon version of in Hunchback of the Disney Hunchback, right? He's sort of
Hmm.
goggly eyed and horrible, right?
It's deformed. Yeah.
And there's so many ways in which I had what my sense I had this was how um you made him ugly, which he needs to be, because then the other characters reacting to him are there is there's the a long time in the story you can't tell whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, which
Mhm.
I thought was really important. Um, but that as a reader that you'd react the same way, which is really horrible to recognize. It's like, oh, I can feel myself, above all of these,
Mm.
I like this, the people in the cafe, which is the same cafe where they just met the second time, but the people in the cafe are all of these, well, LA denizens, right? The women wear yoga pants and sports bras, tank tops. The men sweatpants, flip-flops, and tees. Two dogs mill about, panting under tables, but there's not a baby or a child in sight. Everyone takes their stab at style, their nod at street authenticity. What do they call it? Guerrilla? Ghetto? Mutilated jeans, exposed bras and underwear, mismatched socks, dreadlocks. The contrived dishevelment calls to mind Bruegel's village paintings, though here it's lords and ladies masquerading as urban peasants. After years of chauffeuring them, the medievalist knows them all too well. Roland drives an Uber, right? So he's over. I thought that was also quite nicely situated so that he has insight into all of the people that he's encountering in the story, because he's
Yeah.
heard them talking behind, literally sitting in the back seat of his old Volvo. I also like the Volvo because I had one in college. Mine was in 1982 though, not in 1966. Anyway, the medievalist knows them all too well, having overheard far too many backseat conversations, whispered promises, obvious lies, drunken squabbles, dreams. The veneer of conviviality hides a cold-blooded careerism. Their carefree garb barely veils their fragile, anxious souls. It's painful for Grimke to stand for too long. The strain to his spine is unbearable. When at last the hostess guides him to a small outside table with a spindly wicker chair, he hesitates briefly before lowering onto the seat, which quivers and creaks in complaint. You know what's going to happen first. Grimke starts a silent prayer for protection, but the waiter appears and cuts him short. He orders iced tea. The table has no umbrella. The midday sun roasts his pate and triggers a glistening sweat. Still, he waits a quarter hour before removing his seersucker jacket, twisting awkwardly to hang it over the rounded back of his chair. The bow tie, he decides, will stay. His paper napkin eventually shreds from mopping his sweaty brow. He removes his fogged eyeglasses and massages each lens with his hanky. The waiter refills his tea. Another 15 minutes pass. It's now near 1:30. The meeting is not going to happen. Grimke asks for his check. Just then, a muscled young woman in a sleeveless blouse appears carrying a leather attaché case. She sports a boyish pixie cut that makes him think of Joan of Arc. "Excuse me," she says, squinting at him skeptically. "You're not Roland Grimke, are you?" "I am indeed," he says, happily rising from his seat. It's so painful that happily, right? He's so eager now. He's been sweaty and gross and dripping and bulbous, and he dressed himself carefully, and it doesn't make any difference because he's hideous.
Oh.
Bug-eyed hunchback in a flop sweat. What in fucking hell? Bianca masks her repugnance with a smile. "Sorry I'm late. Things are crazy. Freddie couldn't make it." "Freddie?" I was told Harold Goslar. "Freddie is an assistant to Harry. I'm Bianca, development executive, though technically I report to Freddie." "Delighted to meet you." The freak extends his hand. Bianca offers her elbow. He smilingly acquiesces. "Old habits," he says. I mean, he's allowing her the rudeness. And what's funny about the elbow thing is, as a fencer, right? We're supposed to shake before and after we were supposed to salute before our bouts and shake afterwards. And during COVID, everybody that was fencing at that time started doing this elbow touch stuff, and the blades and stuff. It drives me nuts. You're supposed to shake the
Yeah.
elbow, right? Gone forever, I hope. Right. So she's still playing into the old habits of what happened during COVID.
COVID.
Yeah, it's awful. She takes her.
Oh, she's using it as an excuse
She's using,
because she
yeah,
doesn't want to touch him.
she doesn't want to touch him, and he's giving her an out because he's decent.
He's such a gentleman.
He's such a
It's
gentleman, and
heartbreaking. He's such a gentleman.
He's so gentlemanly in this, like just the aching agony of he's dressed himself so carefully for this meeting.
Yeah.
And she's kept him waiting. She's half an hour late. He's been seated outside. He's all sweaty and everything. She takes her seat as he turns to remove his jacket from the back of his chair. She says, "Little warm for that, isn't it? The truth is, I feel more uncomfortable without it." He dons the coat and plumps back down onto the seat. Crack. A look comes over his face like a skater on a frozen pond hearing fishers cleave. He reaches for the table. With uncanny suddenness, the big man tumbles backwards, taking the table with him and landing on the sidewalk with a clattering crash. Bianca rises in shock. Around her, diners exclaim, aghast. Someone nearby laughs. Grimke lies sprawled in the wreckage, strewn with ice cubes and splattered with tea. This is page 30. You've done this to your main character in the opening.
Oh,
It's so
like
awful.
it's awkward. It's awkward.
No, and the thing I read this. I was like, I'm doomed. I'm doomed. I'm doomed. I have to, because you have this. I mean, this incredible deftness of like. So Casey is describing how much you get to hate Bianca by the end because she's such an operator. No, you are sympathizing with her at the outset because you made poor Roland so grotesque and awful. Bianca stares down at him and appalled. The hostess, gaping, steps up beside her. "Are you all right?" The medievalist, like, that's my identity, right? You realize what you've done to me.
You're internalizing this way too much.
It worked. And this is very good character writing, right? It's like the one, you have to. I was like reading this, taking notes. Like, put your main character in an awkward situation. No pity. A busboy offers a hand, "Sir," right? And then they go back into the back, and Bianca sits him down and is basically desperately trying to figure out what speech she's going to give him to get to destroy his soul. You guys, this is a master at work, right? Because you know, and the sort of no, like, keeping your character safe or anything like that. He is the main character, right? He's on the cover, right?
Yeah.
but no sort of I mean, this is literally the opposite of the Mary Sue, right? Who nothing bad ever happens to, and she gets to like dominate the scene and take care of everything.
Yeah, what I liked about that interplay of those two characters was that I jumped from one character's point of view to the other character's point of view.
Yep.
I'll always write a scene from a particular character's point of view, usually. Sometimes if it's a dialogue scene, you're jumping back and forth between them. But so you get Roland's point of view, and then you get her point of view. And later on, they talk about, he's waxing poetic about his script and what it could do in this version of Dante's great poem and why it's so important and so on. And then you go to her and you see what she's like. Who is this freak? She's on a totally different planet and doesn't understand anything he's saying. And that's not. I mean, that's Hollywood, man.
Yeah.
There is no way that Dante's Divine Comedy will be made into a movie. It's just,
Too
aside from the
judgmental.
fact that nobody would want to do it, it would be very difficult to structure it as a drama because it's consistently moving up, right? You're coming out from hell. You start at the bottom. The structure of a screenplay usually is, it's an arc where you have a climax in the middle where things seem doomed, and then you have a big climax at the end of the second act, and that's the big doom. I mean, it looks like it's hopeless for the guy, for the hero, and then he comes, he either comes out of it or he doesn't. But to dramatize the Divine Comedy would be pretty tough. I'd love to see it anyway. I'd love to see a series
It
of
would be
it.
quite a spectacle if they
Yeah.
did it as described. It would be fascinating to look at for sure.
A lot of people have, I mean, I'm sure the tough thing would be all the, all the people that Dante hated. I mean, what is there?
Well, that's what
There's a,
everybody only reads
Yeah, I mean,
hell.
doggerel. Yeah.
yes,
The students in high school, back in the 80s, when my I did it in high school with our we only read Inferno, right? And that
yeah,
means most people think that Dante was only about putting his enemies in hell.
yeah,
the
yeah. If it, yeah, if
the harder thing is there's less taste for purgatory and paradiso in modern attention, right?
Horror
yeah,
sells, right?
Right, right.
People like being scared.
But I mean, what's funny about Inferno though is you're well, one, I was like talking about where we are now, right? The degree to which people sympathize with the criminals now,
mm,
saying
mhm.
True.
right.
That's
There's
not too judgmental, right? They did
no
what?
place for Dante's ability to, I mean, even the thing is, even Dante in the character Dante in the poem struggles with he's first sympathizing with
Compassion.
Paolo
Yeah.
and Francesca in the adulterers, but as he gets further down, he starts recognizing. I mean, at some point he kicks one of them in the head, right? Because in fraud, right, when they're down in fraud, right? Because
Yeah.
he's finally come to understand that their punishment is appropriate to
Mm,
their lack of repentance.
Mhm.
right.
I Will Durant had a great line about him. It's about Dante. He said, if a man of such bitterness could be given a guided tour through paradise, we are all saved.
Oh, nice.
Well, he clearly had only read the Inferno then, because it's like
You
the
know,
problem.
he came out of a in Italy that of a city that was split, much like our country is split right now. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yep.
that was
Mm,
it was practically a civil war, and he was on the wrong side and got booted and had to go in exile, and he was bitter about it. Who could
yeah.
blame him?
Yes, and so I wonder with your naming your character Bianca. Why is she Bianca? Okay, I'll tell you why. So Dante, the bitterness of the split, it's the usual here medievalist moment, is that it's the battle between the Guelphs and the Ghibellines, because it's between the papal
Yes.
party and the imperial party. But that's not why Dante was exiled. Dante was exiled because there was a split within the Guelph party, between the black
Mm.
Guelphs and the white Guelphs.
And White Ghost, yeah,
And the
that's it.
white Guelphs, the thing is, there's no high level, whether the papal authority is above the imperial authority or vice versa in the black Guelphs and the white Guelphs. I only recently really managed to learn this. Do you know why they were called the white Guelphs?
No, why?
It has to do with this woman called Bianca.
Oh, really?
Oh, no
Uh,
way.
It's true, and it's the wife of one of the lords or something like that, and the white Guelph side with her. I guess
uh,
I just looked anyway. So you've got Easter eggs that you don't even know that you have
yeah,
Wow.
in
yeah.
there.
That's happened to
Uh,
us too when we've written.
Yes, you think, oh, that's just it's the right
We do
image, or
things
it's
by
the right
accident.
this or that, and you find out later. I'm like, it was meant to be. It was meant to
No,
be.
the proper response later is, no, I
Yes.
meant to do
Oh
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
totally meant
We
to do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
we're constantly like the cat landing on its feet and going, I did.
Yeah.
I had a thing like something like that happened the other day to me because I was reading one of my favorite all-time books, which is this one. Can you see it? Shadow and Evil, Marie Louise
Oh
von
my.
Franz. Marie Louise
Hmm.
von Franz was a protege of Carl Jung, and she was Swiss, and she wrote about fairy tales, studied
Mm.
fairy tales all her life. And anyway, I found this the other day. Um, she's talking about um, how there's helpful animals in a lot of fairy tales. There'll be a fox or a cat or something, and they give advice to the hero. And she says But if basically you go against the advice, the helpful fox or the wolf or the cat, if you do not listen to the helpful animal or bird or whatever it is, if any animal gives you advice and you don't follow it, then you are finished. In, in the hundreds and hundreds of stories, that is the one rule which seems to have no exception.
Huh.
And I thought about that and I thought, what does Emily do with her dog, her husband's dog, who's barking
Oh,
at something?
yeah. Right. Didn't listen to the dog. She should
She
have.
didn't listen to the dog, and she did a
Right.
lot more than just not listen to him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Ooh,
It's on page
so
21,
interesting.
so it's not that. It's like the spoiler alert comes really quickly.
one of
She does not save the dog. Let's just say
yeah,
the save the cat. It happens the opposite.
yeah. Uh, it's one of the things that she talks about, Marie Louise von Franz, um, is I suppose it's kind of a Jungian thing, but she she talks about how uh, throughout this story, I hope it came through that Roland is always examining himself
Yes.
and his motives and his
Yes.
intentions, and
I,
he's trying to, always be doing the good, and so on. Um, uh,
yeah, he's very scrupulous.
yes, almost to a fault. I mean, I think ultimately, I mean, he wants to be a saint. I mean, and
Hmm.
and ultimately, the saint is someone who finally gets to a point where he's so pure, he's so good that he just acts out of goodness and for goodness, and he doesn't have to, fret over every decision he's making and so on.
Hmm.
It's a simplicity that's so hard to find to get to, and uh, that's probably, hopefully he'll get there at some point, but he's not there now. But anyway, Marie Louise von Franz, she talks about how um, that kind of Christian uh, scruples, that self-examination that Christianity has developed so well,
Mm.
um, that's useful when you're examining yourself, but you shouldn't do that with other people. With
Hmm.
other people, she thinks you should use the more instinctual kind of fairy tale logic that goes through all the fairy tales. It's more feelings. It's sort of what Roland does in this story when he sees Vitali, Detective Vitali. He has just a bad feeling about this guy.
Hmm.
So he's acting on sort of a fairy tale, instinctual, natural ethic there, rather than some kind of examination of his motives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so so anyway, I like that. I think there's some wisdom in that of the idea of not otherwise you become these Karens who
Yeah.
are you know what I mean? They're just projecting their own scrupulousness onto other people, or what they instead of
Right.
scrutinizing themselves, they're scrutinizing other people, basically,
Yes.
and
Now,
it's not good.
two of your characters have animal names too, nicknames.
Yes,
So,
and I just realized the other day after I read that, I realized there's 4 dogs in this
Is there a
book.
lot of good dogs in the
and a
story?
There's a
cat.
lot of
And a
dogs,
cat.
and he talks about he was a trainer of dogs, so he's trying to
Right.
discipline dogs to restrain
Mhm.
themselves, which is another whole theme through the story.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't, the two, Detective Lobo and
Hmm.
Detective Vitale, who they call the Raven. Now,
Yeah.
There's a raven and a
I,
wolf, basically.
there's a Raven and a wolf,
The
and I
police
didn't know,
officers are raven and wolf.
I did not know whether either one of them were good or bad
Hmm.
until the
It's
Hmm.
very
good.
end.
Yeah,
So
no,
that was
it's
really
good.
interesting.
And no,
Hey,
Yeah.
guess what?
the fairy
Guess
tale
what? I
level
didn't.
is
I didn't either. I didn't either.
Nice.
well, we have a battle scene too, right? So you're talking about Roland just like weighing in and doing sort of starting to become heroic, even when he's this grotesque, awkward blob of a hunchback.
Oh yeah,
Right. So
the sword fight.
the sword fight with the crowbar or the wrench.
Yes.
That he's rescuing a maiden who's in distress right now, and sort of she's being mugged, right?
Hmm.
Roland is peeling off his blue suit jacket. He's never confronted a mugger before, but armed with the tire iron pulled from his trunk, he figures it can't be a whole lot more dangerous than confronting a hostile dog. Just blind him with the jacket and club him with the wrench. It really shouldn't be all that difficult. The problem he's having is removing the jacket while clutching the L-shaped tire iron. Given the desperate circumstances, time seemed of the essence, but it's clear to him now as he shuffles towards his opponent. There's all these beautiful verbs, right? You see, he should be like leaping heroically. Now he's shuffling towards him. That he should have thought this through before beginning his advance. He's managed so far to get the jacket half off, but the wrench is now caught inside the right-hand sleeve, and he's twisting into a pretzel in the struggle to pull it free. Emily squints at the contorted creature awkwardly waddling toward them. The mugger stares in disbelief. Could this bumbling Bolillo really be the hooker's pimp? That's the mugger's thought, right?
Right.
By the time Roland reaches them, he's gotten his jacket off, but the lug wrench is wedged like a bone inside the sleeve, and Roland can't decide whether to cloak the man or whack him. He pauses to nudge back his round-rimmed glasses, then raises the sleeve rod up like a club. Back off! The mugger grins broadly and glances down at Emily. Your papi chulo, princesa. I'm not switching into Spanish properly. Emily is bewildered. The mugger starts towards him, leading with his knife. Roland swings the iron sleeve, swatting the outstretched blade. The blade catches in it, and the mugger rips it free, exposing the flattened pry tip of the wrench. The medievalist pulls the iron loose and hurls the jacket aside. Emboldened, he moves in like a fencer. You've written me! Stop it! The wrench, his makeshift sword, jabbing at the mugger and swiping aside his blade. Emily slowly rises to her feet, amazed at the man's
I had you in
bravado.
mind, Rachel.
You did?
I had you in mind.
The mugger fends him off, too. He is taken aback by Roland's surprising agility. He laughs. You the Zorro, eh? Roland ignores him and fights on, undaunted. He doesn't. They do drive off the attacker, but it's yeah. So there's comedy and horror sort of mixed in throughout.
Yes.
That's a Don Quixote moment, right?
Yes, very Don Quixote.
Yes.
But so what we're saying, guys, you say all of this will appreciate it if you savor, but you can also just read this through, and it's just like this fast paced, it's like there's the police detectives trying to figure out who's murdering the women, the murders there's a bit of did you ever watch Seven, the
Yes.
yeah, so there's a little bit of that. I was catching glimpses of all stories participate in the great cauldron, right? Of drawing on
Yes.
themes and the way in which the showrunner is the sort of you have to he's the killer, right? But who that is and exactly what's going on, and that the murders, are they happening with any meaningful way, or is there accident? Is it coincidence? A degree of coincidence that any of these things are happening, and you keep us guessing. I this you cannot tell throughout exactly whether it's a I guess it's back to the thing we were talking about at the beginning, the degree to which the characters in the story are attributing pattern and significance to things that have none. Like the way the murders are apparently staged and seem to be reflecting particular movies or not. Right. And I the thing is, I've read it now and I can't remember. Right. You have this feel of at what point are we finding significance in things that really aren't there? And
well, I thought it was semi-significant. Can something be semi-significant? No.
I thought the story was keeping us off balance. Yeah. It's like you want to think that, okay, here it is. I read a lot of mystery novels, so you kept me off balance through the whole story.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
No figuring it out in the first third of the book.
I was afraid I gave it away too soon.
No,
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. Mm-mm.
Good. Yeah, that's one of the toughest things to know until other people read it. You can't tell whether you've exposed too much or not, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, this is
so
so
it's good to hear that.
of the structure, the sort of my I as a teacher, I'm a great fan of Keith Johnston's books on improv theater. Do you know those?
Uh-huh. No, I don't.
He has one simply on like training practices he did for his improv troupe, which a
Mm,
lot of stuff on masks that we're working with now in Act
mm,
4. I think I'm channeling from there. But he also did
mm,
a book on called Improv for Storytellers for Storytelling,
mm,
which I think is a kind of movement of, like, there are storyteller, like, people who practice storytelling
mhm,
performatively now, and
mm,
his, his rules for storytelling include, you have to have reincorporation of previous elements, which you were saying, like, you'll find out that, oh, this thing that you just put in becomes
mm,
significant later. But but
mhm,
but but there's a degree to that of, we want things to be significant in our lives, in history, in our, experiences in the world. And so finding things that seem to come back in and are then the answer is incredibly satisfying. That's why conspiracy theories are so fun.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you say, aha, aha, I've got the
Yeah.
push pins and the red thread, it's all gonna connect.
yeah,
Right? it's
yeah.
it's
That's
all
what I
gonna
thought
tie
that.
together.
Yeah. I thought the detective story is a natural for exploring the mystery of faith,
Yes.
basically.
Mm.
That's sort of what we're on in this story. Um, and I mean, it's the back and forth between the, that sort of nihilistic, scientific materialist, whatever you want to call them, characters, and Roland, who's this guy who's uh, really solid in his medieval faith. I mean, that's sort of what got this whole idea going for me was envy of the Middle Ages, when
Mm.
of Christendom, when everybody was sort of on the same basic outlook. They all had the same basic beliefs. As much problems and strife as there was uh, uh, there was this sort of basis of faith that most people in most countries of Europe could agree with,
Mhm.
or agreed with. Um, so that was one of the ideas with it. I mean, there's another, what's that? There's another quote from Will Durant, where he says that what is it? If I can remember it, uh, the survival of Christianity uh, in in the wake of Copernicus and Darwin has been the basic drama of the last 300 years.
Hmm.
Very true.
Isn't that true?
Yes.
I mean, all the way down right into this book that I've just written in 2025. Uh, it's still going on. And that's the big question. And I think our art needs to reflect it and
Mhm.
come out on the right side of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, from my perspective, so the thing that people shared in the period was a sense that life was meaningful, right? In this, and
Yes.
and and the feeling, I mean, the faith that life is meaningful, which is saying that there's, we've been made by a creator to a purpose, which is to praise and thank him. um that's Tolkien. I just use that because he's formulated it so well. It's like, if there is
Yes.
such a thing as a purpose of life, that means that, there's a why. There has to be a response to, our why. And the why was, so when we have, you have to have the creation, and why have we been created? Out of love, right? The God
Mhm.
made us out of love, and therefore our appropriate why is to thank him, and
Yes.
and to rejoice in it. And that there's ramifications off of that the creature itself is shimmering with meaning constantly, and that it, I mean,
Creation, yes.
as we see it in the Middle Ages, I mean, with Dante's trying to make this great cathedral of significance up to the heavens, and the love that turns the sun and the other
Mhm.
stars, is we can see God's working in all of the creatures. So we study them.
Mhm.
And the irony of science turning into this enemy of that contemplation is very terrible, right? That somehow,
Mhm.
instead of it being our celebration of being creatures, it's our diabolical desire to control the whole thing.
Yes. Yes, that's interesting. Really well put.
Mm.
Yeah, fascinating.
And that I like that your thread through the story is Roland's attention to the spider, which
Yes.
Yeah.
is this is where the one place I was able to be truly helpful. Right? When he goes to the Getty, and he's looking at, and we'll say this is totally accurate because I looked it up, and say, wait, there is in fact a artist named Belbello, and the Getty has one
Yes.
of his manuscripts. I certainly
Yes.
hope you've been to see it. I went
No, I
situation. I
haven't,
went.
but
Oh my goodness, you must.
Oh,
You must. We'll get you in
yeah.
there, and when you go to the manuscript
Yeah,
room,
I
and you
would
get
I
to
don't think I
see
could
the.
get in there, but you
Well,
can take me next time you come
I'll
into.
take you the next time we're
Yes.
there,
Yeah, that'll
and
be
talk our
great.
way into the manuscript reading room. So you say,
Yeah.
look, he's made one of your artists a character in the story.
Yeah.
That it's Bibello de Pavia, who's I'd not heard of it. How did you find out about his work, Belbello's work?
I just came across him and I just loved his work. That's how it happened. And then I found out about his life and that he was exiled too.
Mm.
And I thought, well, gee, that's an interesting echo of the other characters in this, Dante and Roland. Um,
Yes,
so they all
Italy
have that in
was very
common.
fractious. They kept kicking each other out.
Yeah.
Well, talk about being exiled, right? They're just exiled if they end up on the wrong political side
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I
have to go
think,
live
well, he
somewhere
was
else.
exiled he was accused of sodomy.
Oh
That's why
well,
he was
okay, there you
exiled.
go.
Yeah.
From Pavia or from
But
he did he go to Florence? Because everybody in Florence is apparently until Savonarola shows up and says, by the way, you shouldn't be doing this, and then he gets thrown out, or no, he gets executed. He gets burned at the stake. Anyway,
yeah,
in
no, he went to the Carthusian monastery. That's where he ended up.
Belbello
And
ended up
that's
in a
where I have him.
monastery, right?
Yes, that's where I have him create this manuscript that Roland's looking at now
So he's looking at
in this story.
this breviary, and
Yes.
there's a image in it. If I may, one more passage.
Sure.
So
Sure.
he's looking at the manuscript. You in this version, there's a mistake about how he handles the manuscript. You've corrected that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Guys, you don't wear gloves holding manuscripts. This
Yeah.
is what's interesting is everybody expects it's like I get this because I'm a medievalist. My husband is a museum conservator, and so
Mm.
his bête noir in all like representations of his discipline is, if you've got a conservator, an archaeological conservative, they got a brush and they're going brush 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 brush. It's like no, maybe, but there's a lot more material science to it. Interestingly, with manipulating manuscripts, your fingers ungloved are actually safer than gloves because gloves are
Mhm.
clumsy, and
see, we've all watched too much Antique Roadshow. This is where everybody's getting this from.
Yeah.
different kinds of
Yeah,
objects
put the
take
gloves on.
different
Don't touch
right.
anything.
No, manuscripts you
Yeah.
don't put gloves on, and
It,
you
it
do
makes sense. Yeah.
you
Makes
do
sense.
you do have to make sure. Usually they'll put the book in cradles so they don't fly open because you don't want to hurt the bindings and things like that.
Yes.
Mm.
And have weights so that you're not constantly trying to hold the pages down and stuff when you're reading them. But
Mm-hmm.
no gloves anyway. So but now he's got his manuscript. He's got his hands able to manipulate it. He lifts the cover. Immediately, the monk is plunged into the late Middle Ages. Brilliantly illuminated, multicolored miniatures, ostentatiously extravagant initial letter capitals, vivid bright red and jet black calligraphy, elaborate, finely detailed, foliated borders, pinks, blues, reds, golds, Lush pages roll by like iridescent waves. The copies Lily sent did not begin to do them justice. Roland feels as if for weeks he's been recalling a faded dream, and now he's suddenly back inside it, immersed in its intensity. Ainsley watches him feast on the imagery, his bulging eyes scanning mere inches over the page. She finds his veracity repugnant. Are you looking for something in particular? Roland keeps searching, turning the pages. Yes. He doesn't elaborate. Ainsley watches with increasing disgust. Lillian told me how much you admire Babello. It's how we met, he says, when I was a student at Oxford. I spent one summer traveling to all the great libraries of Europe. Lillian was studying in Florence at the time. One day we both found ourselves in the Biblioteca Nazionale, requesting the same manuscript, the Visconti Hours, Babello's masterpiece, the peak of his career. We ended up perusing it together. How romantic. You got all these really vicious women characters tormenting
they are
this poor
vicious.
I've had complaints about that.
Emily was the only one who wasn't vicious. She was just righteously angry, but
Yes.
yeah, all the other women are just vicious.
Well,
Yes, thank you,
Lillian,
Kimberly. Thanks for standing up for me.
His friend Lillian is very sweet. Come on.
Oh yeah, Lillian's lovely too. Yeah, but she's not in it as much, so I just kind of forgot about her. But yes, she is.
And she gives him access to the manuscripts. Come on, she's a good guy, and
she's wonderful.
and has asked him to write a piece for the catalog. So come on, she's definitely a good guy.
And the red-haired reporter. She's
right.
She's up and up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So no, we're these are the but the thing is, this is it's like, you know, it's sort of Dantean, you know, journey through all of the hell of LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, the characters, they feel like real people that you must have seen.
Yes. Do you drive an Uber? Are we likely to find you driving around LA?
I know. Who are these people really?
Doing these characters, doing the character sketches. Oh, he's not admitting. Okay.
No, wait, I'm sorry. Did you ask me a question?
Wait, no, I was teasing. The thing is, the thing is that
you take the bait.
You didn't take the bait. You're just like, yes, and I'll pick you up at, you know, my Uber handle is such and such.
Oh, yeah.
The thing is that as a device, that was a very nice way of helping him have that kind of. I mean, he's literally journeying around the city, right? Since he's driving. And it gives him a reason to be having these accidental encounters, which is also a good storytelling. I appreciated that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's where he runs into Mike Noel and Howard one night.
Right.
That's where, outside the cigar club where my group used to meet.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yes.
Where he picks them. Oh, yes, and
fun.
he's trying to get. He's trying to get Howard to put his cigar out. Yeah. Very nice.
Nice.
There's a lot of there's details like this throughout. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I hope so.
They're sneaking up as well.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what?
The next passenger he has when he thinks the woman's dead and she's not dead. In fact.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it was so odd.
Because she's not actually alive.
She's not alive or dead. That'll be intriguing enough. There, yeah.
You know, I've had several people tell me that I should take that scene out. Should have taken. That scene out.
Oh no!
I really like that scene. It definitely goes with the theme of materialism versus spiritual life.
Yes.
And where we're headed and so on. So I really like it.
And it's
a nice interlude.
The objectification of women too is in there very, very well in that scene.
Yeah.
Literally, objectification.
Literally.
Object.
Yes.
She's an object.
This is. I mean, I need to go now and keep reading. Right? It's David. It's a great read. It's really, really fun because there's ways in which, as I hope we've proven for everyone, you can savor this. You can read it quickly. There are details in it that you'll not realize until later how clever they were. It's just, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun writing.
Yes. You know, that's one of the advantages of writing it over a period of years is new stuff keeps coming to you, and you add it to the story, and it just adds more dimension to the story, more
Mm.
depth to the story, more connections, more interesting stuff. So if you're writing on I got to have this in 9 months, it's harder to do that. You don't get the richness, I don't think.
Yeah.
So that's the luxury I have.
It's a luxury. It's a luxury. This is a luxury book. Yes. Well, and this is
Yeah.
as we're writing our poem too. I'm just like we're doing it. I feel like this is poetry. I feel like you've really written a prose poem. It's very beautiful. But the feeling
Mm.
of in our poetry of you don't want to rush it too much because you want to get the detail exactly right because
Mhm.
every
Yes.
and
Mhm.
this is with Belbello's painting that the reason Roland is looking so closely at it is there's this feature of it that he wants to find out. He's seen the photographs of it, or he's seen photographs. Lillian has sent him photographs.
She sent him copies,
She
yeah.
sent him copies,
Just like, yes.
and he's not sure whether the detail that he's looking for is actually what he thinks it is because it's one of the things that haunts his
Yes.
own imagination. And
Yes.
Mm.
that I thought that I thought that level of detail I was still confused by the end exactly how real the spiders were. Right. And
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that's
more than one person saw it by the end.
right, but I
That
see
was neat. I liked that.
the level of uncertainty fits with the problem of faith, right? That you're
Yes. Exactly.
constantly playing
Exactly
with
right.
this
Yes.
who's seen clearly, who's I mean this involves art dealing and screenwriting and all of these levels of illusion casting, and everybody
Oh,
Yes.
involved in
yeah.
it is trying to make some kind of uh story that they're playing in.
We all see it through a glass darkly.
Right.
Roland's looking through half of the story. He's looking through broken glasses.
Yes, it is.
Mm.
It's
One
literally
lens is shattered.
his glasses literally get broken. Yeah.
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 Well, this
I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it.
we did.
I'm
But
Oh,
so
now we've
glad you
kept you
enjoyed
so
it,
long. We've kept
loved
you we
it.
kept you way past your
yeah.
bedtime. I'm sure. No, wait.
No,
You're a
you were
Pacific
right.
time.
For me, it flew by. It flew by because you were flattering me the whole time.
Oh
So
well, there you
I,
go.
I,
Do you think
I was soaking
can
it
we
up.
survive in Hollywood now? Do we have okay. I hope you felt
I
how
couldn't. No.
sincere it was. We really, really enjoyed it. And we hope everybody
Oh, good.
watching goes and buys the book. David, tell them where to find you, and we'll put links to your website and things like that in the but where's the best place for them to find you?
The books are on davidangsten.com. I used to have a blog, but I don't really do it anymore. But you can still find the blog. There's interesting things on it.
Mm.
Um, but I'm on Facebook if people want to follow me on Facebook. Um, and although a lot of my stuff there is politics, and you might not like that, I don't know. It depends on your tastes. Um, but otherwise, yeah, the book is available on Amazon. You can get it in Kindle version, or you can get a paperback version, and I might even do a hardcover version because I'd love to put a Bello image on the back cover and just have no words, just
Neat.
have that image on the back
Mm.
cover. So I might do that with a hardcover at some point. But anyway,
Well, get one or the other now, Kindle or paperback, and enjoy, right? And as I said, I've ordered the first one of the night. Sorry, I've forgotten the Night Journey trilogy, the Night Sky trilogy,
Night Sea
Night
trilogy,
Sea
yeah, Night
trilogy,
Sea.
Night Sea. Yes.
Yeah, there's a description of that if you go to davidangsten.com.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a whole description about you look at the books and see. I wish you were reading with Dark Gold. I wish you were reading the Kindle version because it's been updated. The print version has
Oh,
not. So,
nice. Nice
but
Well,
tip.
as a medievalist, I'm
yeah,
used to this kind of problem.
yeah,
You're creating
yeah,
a very medieval problem of wait, no, I've revised it and put it on. I
yeah,
buy
yeah,
print
yeah.
books because I actually like having the book, right? So you'll appreciate that
Yes,
as a
yes,
medievalist too.
yeah,
Well, okay, maybe
yeah,
maybe I'll read both.
yeah.
We find out the variants, the variant options. Whether so that you know I have my he has gloves on in this version.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The thing is, I
It'll be a
think that
collector's version, no
it's a
doubt.
collector. The revised
Yeah.
scene you did on the basis of my expert knowledge
Oh,
about
that
what
was
me
so great.
is
I'm
even
so
worse
glad you
for
caught that.
Roland.
Yes,
He's even more
it worked out
uncomfortable.
better.
Yes,
The truth worked out better. Isn't that the way it should be?
as it should. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining us. I hope we'll have
Yeah.
you back once we've read more in your work.
Okay.
It'd be fun.
And you're
This was
writing a
fun.
sequel. You're writing a sequel too
It's
of
very
Roland,
fun.
right? There'll be more.
Supposedly I'm writing a sequel. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
She told me not to ask you that, but I so wanted to ask you that.
Yeah.
Oh,
To be
yes.
continued. To be continued. Good night, everyone.